having a good time. She was my role model, she was my idol, and things were going so well. And unfortunately, a few years down the line, her relationship didn't work out, and then we ended up moving from London to live somewhere else. And then when we moved, she ended up dating somebody else who was almost like a father figure to me and my sisters, because our dads weren't very active. Well, my dad wasn't very active in my life at the time. And this man became like a father figure. We're all cool. Sometimes he'll come around, take us to school, and just show us the new area. And unfortunately, somewhere along the line, my mum basically accused me of sleeping with this man. And when she accused me of that, as you can imagine, our relationship went from this to just, it just scattered everywhere, because she felt like I had done something. And for me, it was a very difficult period of time, because I was going through a process of, I adore this woman and I still love my mum very much. Of course I do, and she inspires me still. But I was like, we were so close, and all of a sudden your behavior is changed. And I didn't know how to deal with that. So for a good 5 years, I was going through a state of confusion. I was going through a state of pain. I remember there were times where I cried my eyes out, literally begging God. I said, God, please give me money so I could do lie detector tests so she could know that I'm telling the truth. And I cried, and I couldn't go to my dad for help because my relationship with my dad wasn't there. My aunties wasn't close. There was basically no one that I can go to. I was very, very isolated, very fearful, very scared. I didn't know what to do. And I made a decision. Now, whether this decision was made consciously or not, at some point, I decided throughout that process or that journey to be independent. I was independent, or I decided to be independent because I thought, you know what? If I stop trusting mum and other people around me, you can't hurt me anymore. If I stop letting people in, if I stop letting people into my space, if I stop trusting, if I stop looking up at people, you can't hurt me because you're no longer familiar with me. So that decision to be independent made me very self-sufficient. It was now about me, myself, and I. I trusted in myself only. I did everything for myself. I didn't trust people to help me with nothing. I didn't trust people when it came to advice. I didn't, even with my friends, even though I had friends and it seemed like we were close, mentally, I always had a barrier. And the reason why I became that independent was because I was scared. I was scared that what if I let you in and I trust you like I did my mom, and maybe you say something that ruins our relationship? I can't afford to go through that pain again. So even though on the outside it looked like I was doing really well, I'm independent, I'm in uni, I'm graduating, all these stuff, the source of that independence was rooted in betrayal, in trauma, and in pain and in fear. So maybe you're on here today, and maybe yours may not necessarily be a betrayal. Maybe you had a best friend or a group of friends who you told all your secrets to. You guys laughed together, you shared meals together, you brought them to your family home, and then maybe behind your back, they went to gossip about you. And that brought you so much shame, so much hurt, so much pain. And maybe that caused you to be very independent and self-sufficient in a sense that actually, me and people, I'll laugh and joke with you, but I'll keep you here, Or maybe a loved one close to you died, and that loss, the pain from that grief and that loss made you feel like, actually, I'm going to be very independent, because if I trust somebody, what if they die and they leave me? I can't afford to grieve again. I can't afford to love and have that person die and leave me again. Or maybe you were in business with somebody, you shared all your ideas with them. You invested so much money and so much time into that business, and maybe they lied, or maybe they stole your idea and they twisted things around and they really hurt you. And as a result of that, you have decided to be independent. But the root source of it is mainly fear, is betrayal, is pain, and is trauma. And although in a short term, this is okay because it's almost like a coping mechanism to protect your heart and your feelings, we have to be careful and not allow it to carry on in the long run. And the reason being is that if we let it carry on, it begins to corrupt our character. That independence is going to turn into pride. What is pride? Pride is simply thinking that you're better than other people. When you're so used to me, myself, and I'm self-sufficient, I don't need anybody, and all of that is rooted in pain and trauma, that pride says that I am better than other people. And if you think you're better than other people, what happens? You treat people differently. You think everyone is beneath you. You don't communicate with people. You don't form relationship. You always think you're up here and everybody else is down here. That's one of the consequences of not dealing with the root source of the matter. Another thing is that you become very overly critical. You're constantly criticizing yourself, trying to change who you are. Am I ever going to be good enough? Let me just change this about myself. Or what if I did this differently? Will people like me better? Because you're so scared that if you don't get it right, or if you don't change who you are to fit the mold of other people's expectations, people may not want to come close. Or you become very critical, or even other people. You start criticizing things that everybody does. If you see a woman who's doing really well, instead of congratulating them and saying, oh, you look beautiful, or well done for this, you start nitpicking. You start, oh no, you could have done this better. You could have done this better. That's another consequences. And another consequences of independence rooted in fear and in trauma is the fact that you become delusional. But when I talk about delusion, I don't mean it in terms of mental health. I mean it in a sense of having a false idea of who you are. I'm sure most of you have even met people who have a false sense of themselves. They think there's something that they're not. And because they think there's something they're not, it's hard for them to be corrected. Even when they're doing something wrong and you want to correct them, they feel like you're coming to attack them. So they come on the defense, they start cussing you, they start attacking you for it. These are the three things, and there's many more, but I'm really talking about some of the three today. If you don't deal with the root of the problem, if somebody betrayed you, if you don't deal with that betrayal and you make a conscious or subconscious decision to become independent, it can lead to pride. It can lead to overly criticism. It can lead to things like delusion. And the problem with these things, like I said earlier, is that it begins to affect your character. And if your character is tampered with, or if your character is affected, that could potentially cost you your reputation. I'm sure most of you have heard of many great men of God or women of God or people in power who were doing such amazing things, and they did one thing wrong and their whole reputation got wiped out like that. As a woman of power, as somebody of influence, as a woman who's part of a great organization like this, you have to always check your character. And as I'm growing, one of the things that I've noticed about this world is that you can do a million things right. You can do 10 million things right. But the moment you get one thing wrong, that's what everybody will remember. That is the one thing everybody will remember. Your character speaks a lot. Your character can influence your progress in life. You don't want to work so hard, work so hard to get to a great platform where the limelight is on you. And then you start to show those prideful behaviors. And then you start to be overly critical. And then you start to be delusional in terms of having a false idea of who you are. Because the reality of it is that, sometimes where you're going, there's people who've been there before. And people who've been on that journey know what's right, what's wrong, what to do, turn left, turn right, turn around, whatever it is. They know that journey, they've been there. But if you have a false sense of who you are, and if you can't take correction from people who've already been there, you're not going to get very far. Your progress in life will always be limited if your character is not constantly being checked. So it's very, very important. And, the thing with character and reputation is that it doesn't only affect you. So let's say an example would be, maybe there was a huge preacher somewhere who was doing miracles, God's hand was on him, and maybe you heard that he's cheated, a character flaw. But you know what happens? They start doing history check. They now check, what church did he grow up in? What is his family member's name? Who raised him? Who did this? Who is he associated to? When your character or when your reputation comes downhill, it affects other people around you. As a woman of power, as part of this organization who were looking to make change in this world, your character has to be always checked, because if you don't and something happens, they're going to trace back to women of power. Who was the leader there? They're going to trace back to your church. Who was your spiritual covering? Why didn't anybody correct you? Who are your parents? Who raised you? Who was your partner? Why didn't anybody teach you? But sometimes it's even got nothing to do with them. It's you. So it's very important that we check our reputation as we go along. And, even as I'm speaking, I want you to assess yourself and your independence, and be honest with yourself. This is something you don't have to share with anybody, just internally assess yourself. this independence that I have as a woman who claims to be very independent, you know, what really is the source of my independence? Because like I said, independence is not the issue, it's the source of it. If your independence is coming from a genuine place, that is great. There's nothing wrong with that. That is absolutely fine. However, if it's influenced by the fact that somebody has hurt you before, because you're scared to trust, because you're scared to, work with people, you're scared to support people just in case they take advantage of you, then that is not coming from a good place. So if maybe you've identified that your independence is rooted in all that stuff, there are things, by the grace of God, there are things that you can do to help yourself. Number one, it starts with forgiveness. And I always say forgiveness is very, very powerful. Forgiveness is never for the person who's offended you, it's always for yourself. Forgiveness is for your peace of mind. Forgiveness is for your sanity. When you forgive somebody, you're giving yourself permission to be free. You're giving yourself permission to have peace. Because often at times, the people who offend us, they've moved on. Sometimes they don't even know they've offended you. They're living their best life, they're snoring, and you're the one crying every day. You're the one looking through their Instagram pictures and just feeling so much anger and frustration. Why? It's not affecting them, it's affecting you. Forgiveness is always for you. So make sure that you're always forgiving. Whoever has hurt you in the past, make sure you forgive them. Because like I said, it's for you. And the thing with forgiveness is that it often leads into other things. When you hold a lot of resentment in your heart, when you haven't dealt with the issue of the problems, it opens up a gateway for other things to enter. There's research to show that unforgiveness can actually lead to a lot of physical sickness. It can lead to things like depression and anxiety. It can lead to mental health problems. It can lead to high blood pressure. It can lead to heart attacks. Why? All because you're holding something inside you. So for anyone who was on here, if anybody's offended you and that's the root of your independence, number one, it has to start with forgiveness. And sometimes you don't always have the opportunity to talk to the person. Sometimes we are waiting for somebody to apologize before we forgive. It doesn't work like that. Because often at times, the people who have offended you, they don't think they have offended you. So if you're waiting for them to say sorry before you say forgive you, you'll be waiting for a long time. You don't need permission to forgive. You don't need an apology to forgive. It's a decision that you make. You can make it in prayer. And I know for me, one of the things that I did is that every time I prayed, I said, Lord, I pray for my mom. She's hurt me, I feel hurt, but I pray that you give me a heart to forgive her. And I listed her name, I listed the offense that she caused me, and I released that onto God. I released that. Because when you speak that, what happens is that you're actually taking action to forgive, because you're hearing yourself say, I forgive you. So it always starts with forgiveness. That's number one. Number two, as a way of overcoming the source rooted in, the independence rooted in things like trauma and fear is to be self-aware. If you don't know something about yourself, you can't change it. So you have to be self-aware. If you know that maybe you're prideful because somebody hurt you, that maybe you're overly critical of yourself because somebody hurt you, you have to be very self-aware. So the next time you catch yourself about to say something that is prideful, you can stop yourself. The next time you catch yourself criticizing yourself too much or other people or a beautiful woman who's doing better than you, you can stop and say, actually, no, this is not coming from a good place. Why am I doing that? Why am I tearing another woman down? Why am I tearing somebody else down? You can stop yourself and make changes. And the third thing you can do is love. Love is a very powerful thing. We all hear it. But I think it's very important that I stress that love doesn't mean that you have to be a doormat. Love doesn't mean that if somebody's abusing you, keep standing there and they're abusing you. You can always love people from a distance. Love simply means that being able to see that person through the eyes of God. Yes, what they're doing doesn't hurt you, but you don't go behind them and gossip about them because they've done it to you. You're just repeating a cycle. Love means that if the other person needed your help, you still help them. You're looking at them through the lens of God. You're looking at them through the eyes of God. So these are some of the things that we can do to help us really overcome the independence rooted in things like trauma and abuse and fear. By definition, independence simply means freedom from one's control. right? This is the definition of independence, to be free from somebody else's control. But if your independence is rooted in somebody else's behavior, is that really independence? Because technically they are controlling you. You know, that is contradictory to the definition of independence. If you're saying you're independent because, oh, I'm free, I have my own mind, I'm self-sufficient, but all of that is because somebody offended you, that means that their action is technically controlling your decisions, your behaviors to be independent. So you really have to question, actually, is this independence or is this something else? Because it contradicts with the definition of independence. You know, so it's very, very important as women of power, like I said, women of great influence. I know all of us here, not some, all of us here are going to be going ahead doing great things, amazing things, inspiring people, setting up businesses, creating amazing homes, having our platforms, you know, almost like an army. We are going to cause chaos in this generation, but your character has to be in check. Your independence, when people look at you and they see an independent woman, make sure they're seeing the genuine version, not the one rooted in fear, in trauma, and in abuse. Because like I said, that can really impact your character and your reputation, which can then cause you to lose everything you worked for, which then impacts everything and everybody associated to you, you know. So really, in summary, you know, like I said, independence, there's nothing wrong with it. To be independent is a great thing. Women of power, for me, when I think of it, I think of independence. A woman who is all knowing, who is self sufficient, who is kind, who is loving, who is a boss babe. You have to be a boss babe, you know? But sometimes the source is not good. So you always have to check your source. If your source is rooted in pain, trauma, abuse, fear, because somebody has offended you, maybe your best friend gossiped about you. So you think, I don't want any friends because I'm so scared to get hurt. Maybe somebody cheated on you. Maybe somebody who you love dearly died and you're so scared of losing people. If that is the root source of it, deal with the root, deal with the problem. Once you deal with the problem, your independence is more genuine. But if you don't deal with it, it can affect your character. It can make you prideful. It can make you selfish. It can make you self-righteous. It can make you delusional. It can make you overly critical. And all these things can cause you your reputation later on in the future. You know, so women of power, just to even end on this note, you know, I hope and I pray that everyone here who claims to be independent, their independence is definitely coming from a genuine place. Because you don't want a situation whereby, you know, you lose everything that you've worked for. You don't want a situation whereby, you know, everything you worked for just goes to waste. You don't want a situation whereby your children, your sisters, people looking up to you, you know, with their hopes up, trusting you with everything that you're sharing with them and everything like that, just, you know, goes downhill. So it's very, very important that we constantly check these things. It's very, very important that we constantly check these things. So yeah, I hope that today's message has blessed you today. And I hope that it's given you a refreshing idea of independence, or maybe even next time you think of independence, that you are able to really stop and say, actually, wait, hold on. Or the next time maybe you look to criticize another woman, you look to say, actually, hold on. The next time you're feeling prideful, you look to say, wait, hold on. You know, like I said in the beginning, I mentioned that, you know, one of the things that I love about this platform is that the heart behind it is very genuine. And you can tell just from looking at what the organization is about. When something is genuine, you can see it. You don't have to state it. People just see it and they know it. And that goes line in line with your independence. You know, if your independence is genuine, you can tell. If it's not, eventually the truth will come out. So at all times, just make sure that you're assessing yourself, you're checking yourself, and that your independence is rooted in the right things and is done for the right reasons. So yeah, thank you all so much for taking out the time to listen today. I hope this very short message blessed you. And yeah, I just hope that it is giving you a fresh perspective about independence. So yeah, again, my name is Pamela. And yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Wow, I told y'all. Everyone's clapping for you.
Oh, thank you.
I told you all that we're going to get some gems today. We're going to get some wisdom. That is what I am talking about. It is so rich. As Angela said, it was amazing. I think just the way that it broke things down, it broke what it meant to be independent. That in this generation, a lot of women say they're independent, but where's the root? Where's really the source of where it's coming from? Like, I reason with that so much. I'm going to go around just to open up, the floor. But
Yeah.
even me, I've noticed that that's something that's actually my strength, that I'm so independent, I'm such a go-getter. But then when you're talking about the roots, I realize, wow, like, where is it coming from? Why am I actually like this? And now realizing that that's actually not healthy, some of the places in which it's coming from. So thank you so much for sharing. I just want to open up the floor. As you can see, the group chat is the chat right now is popping off. If everyone could just unmute their mics. I just want to ask some questions based on what everyone has learned. Um, so we're gonna go first with, I know Sister Olabumi was really enjoying that. What have you learned from that, and has anything resonated with you as well? Sister Bumi, you're on mute.
Sorry,
Oh, it's a bit of
sorry.
noise.
I'm so sorry about that. I hope
No,
you can hear me now.
yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Pastor Pam. I really, really enjoyed myself. I really, really, really was blessed.
Thank
I really,
you.
really was blessed. I the roots. I'll also talk about the roots, the motive behind everything I do. I'm seriously encouraged, and hereafter going to go and dig deep on everything I do, everything I'm about to do. Why am I doing this? Why am I going to do this? What is the motive behind it? When I get the motive right, seriously, the character behind it will be right. The character behind it. When you talk about character, I'm seriously touched, because the kind of things I do, almost everything I do, really, really has to do with character issue. Really, really has to do with character. So I'm really going to be praying about character, praying to God to really search me, to try me, to know me, and just working seriously on myself by praying to God, by seeking God's face. Because when you talk about character and how great men has fallen because of this character issue, it really, really touched my heart. I said, wow, God really must help me, because in everything I am doing, in everything I'm going to do, I really, really need a genuine character. I really need the help of God to build a good character to do this. Thank you so much. I'm really blessed. I don't even know how to express it. It's really, really very impactful. God bless you, Pastor Pam.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much, Sister Bumi. I wanted to ask Sister Fumilola as well. What did you enjoy about this? How did that stick with you?
Whoop whoop,
Power up,
whoop whoop,
power up.
row. I'm really blessed.
Sorry, sis, the signal's bad. No, I don't think anyone can hear. Sorry. It's breaking up, but what the best thing to do is maybe to type it in the chat section so that everyone can see, because your signal is quite bad, so no one can actually hear you. So I just have 2 questions to throw out. Anyone can answer this, because just to check that we were all listening and that it's been, you know, stuck in our mind. So the first question is, what is freedom? What did Pastor Pam describe as freedom? Anyone? What is the definition that she gave of freedom? Anyone? You're on mute, Angela.
The idea was that you were meant to pick somebody, but if you're picking me, freedom, I think from the way I would. Somebody has answered this.
Oh, yeah, she answered.
It was independence.
Yeah.
Being able to basically being able to express yourself without answering to anybody.
It was actually independent, not freedom.
Independence.
Confused.
Oh no, she said no. She gave a definition of freedom.
Independent
is freedom.
Oh,
there was freedom explained too.
Yeah, but what Sister Fumilola said about freedom from someone's, so I was looking for the answer, freedom from someone's control.
Not having to answer to anybody, and then she was not like, oh, some people think they're free, and okay, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'll take that one. Maybe I'm the one that needs to clearly be writing and take notes. The next thing, what are the 3 things that she mentioned as well, in relation to moving past hurt?
Forgiveness.
Yep. What's the next 2? We've got forgiveness.
Love.
Love, yep. And we have one more.
When you're about to criticize people or even criticize yourself, try to stop and just really think deep before you do that. Just find the root. Maybe it's coming from a right source or not.
So how do you summarize that into one word?
Reflection.
So she said self-awareness. Yeah, very similar. Yeah. So as we can see, Pastor Nancy is on a roll, but yeah, honestly, thank you guys so much. I'm honestly even going to pass it on to her. Thank you so much, Pam. That was amazing. As you can see, we've all been blessed with that. So hopefully even during the week, we could all actually practice this and be intentional about it as well. So we passed it on to our amazing, amazing leader, CEO, everything, Pastor Nancy.
Thank you so much, Pastor Pam. Honestly, I'm just still unpacking everything you said tonight. And it was just as if you came for my wig this evening, because my wig was it was just moving around. I was trying to catch it. Thank you so much for coming to bless us today. And definitely, I'm still going to watch this back, honestly, because you can't just listen to it and just forget about it. And the same thing I'm going to advise everyone to do, please, it will be on our YouTube, and it will be so nice if we can all go back and watch over again. Just make sure you watch everything. Make sure you take anything you can take from this message and just, you know, work towards that, because there's another thing for us to listen to a message and, you know, be like, oh, that message was powerful, and without you doing anything to the message. So it doesn't do that message justice. And what do you want Pastor Pam to think about us if we're not acting on that stuff that she's taught us? So one thing I'm going to do differently this week, I'm actually going to go to our YouTube, watch this over again, because I feel like you're speaking to me tonight, because sometimes I criticize myself a lot, and you know about it because we talk a lot. I criticize myself a lot, telling myself if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or maybe I'm not doing enough, and not knowing that I'm actually doing what God wants me to do. And sometimes my husband would just try to stop me and say, listen, you're doing it, you're on the right path. So it's so easy for us to kind of criticize ourselves, but I'm just going to take this upon myself this week, go all over again and just watch this particular message and act on it. And let me just appreciate everyone that joined us tonight. Obviously, Sister Tisoma, did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We really
thank you guys. It was amazing.
Thank you. And I hope you really enjoyed that.
I did.
And we can't wait to have you again. So we're looking forward to having you again with us on Sundays. And I saw another sister, Bumi, but I don't know who that is. They left. Okay, I actually wanted to shout them out. Sister Ade Miloye Fausat, thank you so much for joining us today. I know the network was really bad. You were not able to really listen to the message, but the message is going to be on our YouTube. Please watch the message over again on our YouTube channel. And I'm not going to take much of our time. I just really want to lay emphasis on the fact that we need to go back during the week and watch this message. That's the only thing we can do this week. Let's make God proud. Let's make Pastor Pam proud. I know Pastor Pam has come to speak to every one of us because I know you must have picked one or two things from that message. Please go back, chew this message over and over and act on it. And as we begin to act on that message, I just pray that the results will show and it will be evident to everyone that sees you this week in Jesus' name. Amen. I don't know if everyone has got something to say because I've got nothing to say, and that will be the end of the meeting. Does anyone have anything to say? And Pastor Jimmy, listen, my pastor is here. How will I forget to even shout my pastor out? Pastor Jimmy, good evening, sir.
Hello, I'm just here. I'm just chilling.
Thank you so much for coming to support Pastor Pam. We really appreciate you. Thank you for pouring so much into us all the time. And thank you for being an amazing dad and husband. God bless you. And thanks for coming tonight. God bless you. Yeah, over to you, Gloria. I've got nothing to say.
Yeah, so that's the end of the meeting. That's the end. Thank you guys. Until next Sunday.